it's the early 1990s, and imagine you're a fly on a wall in this room, and it's got dark old paneling like they had back then, and there's things on there's certificates and stuff all over the wall, which it's pretty obvious you're in a doctor's office. It has one of those big desks with the leather, things on the top, and there's 4 leather chairs. So there's 3 people sitting in them, and on the right hand side is this man. He's in his early 70s, and but he's built like a big man, not terribly overweight by any means. It's obvious he's well weathered, and he has his hat in his hand, and he's running it around on the brim, and he's very, very nervous and uncomfortable. Next to him's this small little woman, a little bit younger, perhaps, dark hair, and in a slightly outdated dress, but obviously she's his wife, and she's sitting there with a little handkerchief in one hand, and it's what a woman of her age at that time would have had, was a white handkerchief with this red embroidery and maybe a little flower embroidered in it, and a rosary in the other, and she's praying the rosary, and next to her is this young guy, and it's a little confusing when you look at it, because he looks too young to be their son and too old to be their grandchild. So, and he's sitting there reading a magazine, just trying to pass the time, and they're waiting on the doctor. And all at once, on the older man on the right-hand side, he taps the woman on the leg, and he says, "Dort," because her name's Dorothy, but he called her Dort all the time. "Dort, why are we here?" And the woman raises her head up, and she looks at him and says, "Paul, we're here to find out if I'm sick." And the man jumps up and says, "Oh, surely not." And he becomes very restless. And the woman stands up and tries to calm him. And the young man's over there, and they try to calm him. He's very upset for a little bit, but they get him calmed back down. And he sits back down in his chair, and the woman sits down, and the younger man sits down. And another 10 minutes pass, because leaving people waiting sometimes in a doctor's office was even worse back then than it is now, in my opinion. And it'll say 10 minutes passed, and all at once the older man taps the woman on the knee and says, "Dort, why are we here?" And the whole scene repeats itself. Now, but they sit there for a little while again, and then suddenly the doctor comes in. Now, the doctor's a young guy, and his hair is a little bit long, but that's okay. And but he seems pretty young, and he sits down, and he starts making some chit chat with Dorothy and the young man. The older man's pretty quiet. He pays attention, but you can tell he's just not quite understanding what's going on. And you can also tell the doctor is really quite nervous. And he finally settles, the chit chat stops, and he settles a little bit, and he looks at the woman, looks her in the face, and says, "Dorothy, we spent a fair amount of time together, and I have to tell you, there's no test for it for sure, but I really think you're at the beginning stages of early onset Alzheimer's." And Dorothy puts her face in her hands for a little bit, and then she blows her nose and wipes her eyes with that little handkerchief that nobody should ever blow their hands and nose in something so pretty. And then she looks up at the doctor and says, "Okay, so now what do we do?" Well, fast forward quite a bit. It doesn't take all that long, and Dorothy can't take care of Paul anymore, and they both go into a nursing home, and Paul doesn't last long in a nursing home. He passes away, and Dorothy, though, she does fantastic in the nursing home. And I'm lucky enough, I was obviously the young man, and I'm lucky enough that I can drive by the nursing home quite often, and I will stop in to see my mom 4 or 5 times a week without fail. She was in nursing homes for a long time. And what was really amazing was when she was in the nursing home, she obviously went through different stages, but she loved making puzzles like this one behind me. She had 12 kids besides me. So there's 13 of us, and we all have several of these puzzles. But then, as time would go on, the puzzles became smaller and the books became easier to read, or you read the Aesop fables and then children's Bible stories and things like that. But it was really quite amazing because you would ask Mom, you want to work on a puzzle? Yes. And the staff would ask, Mom, you want to help fold towels? Yes. Mom, you want to play cards? And at first it was euchre, and then it was rummy, and then it was high-low. But the answer was always yes. Mom, do you want to go to get some ice cream? Now, she had lots of children, so sometimes she had ice cream 3 or 4 times a day because of that, but the answer was always yes. And as time went on, in the last nursing home that she was in, which was a wonderful place, had a little activity center, and I would stop in there before I went to work. And we had this little ritual where I would visit with her a while and usually read something, and she was no longer able to do puzzles, but I'd been doing this for years and years, okay? So it's good to get people out of their chairs, and we'd be in the activity center where there's lots of people around, and I would stand Mom up and I would say, okay, Mom, would you like to dance? And she always said yes, and we would stand up and I would sing because, I can't control it. They don't have music on usually. But I would sing, could I have this dance for the rest of my life? Simply because it was one of Mom's favorite songs. And we would dance, and I would sit her back down, and I would go on my way to work. And never shy about being around other people. And there was staff there, and everyone knew us quite well for this. So finally, after this going on for years, at one point, one day we go through the normal ritual, and we get up and we dance, and I sit Mom down and I put on my coat. It's in winter, and my hat, and start down this long hallway to leave. And I hear my mom say to the attendee, who was that young man I danced with? And I stopped, and the attendee runs down the hall to me. Everybody knew me because of the singing and the dancing. And she said, Dan, are you okay? Because she could tell that I had heard my mom say that. And it was a very odd moment because I really was okay. And I looked at the young lady and I said, yeah, I'm not just okay. I'm amazed. I'm awesome. My mom is late 80s and she's dancing with somebody she doesn't know. It's incredible. My mom's best years were her years after her and Dad both developed Alzheimer's at the same time. She made an incredible group of choices during that time, and that's what we're going to talk about. All right? So these are the choices thrivers make, because Mom was not in a good situation, but she thrived in it. Okay? And we could all learn to do that. First of all, we need to love people. That sounds basic, but loving others more than you love yourself is an incredible way to live, and it makes your life better. Mom loved and cared for Dad. Dad, especially when in his early 50s, he started to develop a lot of psychological issues. He became a very difficult, sometimes dangerous person to care for. Mom cared for him. She loved him. There was no parting of the ways there, okay? It was really quite amazing to see the depth of her love. Love people, because it's the people that actually matter in the end. Inside your organization, outside yourself, it doesn't matter. Love people. The next thing, my mom, okay, remember, we're in this doctor's office to try and find out if the woman who's caretaking for a man who has early onset Alzheimer's has early onset Alzheimer's. That's bad news, okay? Mom had no qualms getting this test done. She wanted to know. She sought and then faced the truth. She was there. The doctor spoke to her. She took it. All right. Now, she gets told that the caregiver of the two has early onset Alzheimer's, and she puts her face in that pretty little handkerchief for 20 seconds max. And she looks up and says, okay, now what do we do? Mom didn't spend any time feeling sorry for herself, right? She refused to be a victim. She played the hand she was dealt. She looked the truth square in the eye and, okay, what are we going to do? You know, when you decide you're a victim, what you do is you disempower. You lose control. You think life is about doing the best you can with what you have to control. And yes, I know sometimes awful things happen to people, and I know not every story is the same, but everybody has bad things happen to them. Everyone's life has complications. I tell people now, you know, when I was sitting in the van, I obviously was feeling pretty sorry for myself. Now I tell people I don't think there's a single person in the world who has a better life than me. And that's not because my life is perfect, though it's pretty darn good, okay? But it's also because of the realization that everybody's life has difficulties. Everybody. You look at your life and you do the best you can with the things you can control. And you can control a lot. You're responsible for what you say, what you do, the decisions you make. Those are yours, right? Mom looks up and says, what can we do? What do I do now? That goes on to the next one too. Take action. Have a bias for action. So she faced the truth. She plays the hand she's dealt, but she actually plays the hand. What do we do? He said, you know, you got to go home and start keeping a diary so you can look back at everything that happens. And when people come to visit you, they know what happened before you got there. It makes it easier for conversations and stuff like that. And you won't be afraid to be with people. She did it. Okay. She took action. All right. So then, you know, I was telling you how she went to the nursing home. You asked her to do something. She said yes. When I asked her to dance, she said yes. We can all learn for that. I'm not saying say yes to everything that comes along, but if you love to dance and someone asks you to dance, dance. There's a great song out there by Leanne Womack called I Hope You Dance. And if you haven't heard it, go listen to it. I love that song because it's so true. As people, I think it gets worse as people get older, but you can have the default of no, or you can have the default of yes. Now, in both cases, you should think about it because you can, you know, overcomplicate your life if you say yes to everything. But when it's not immoral, not unethical, not dangerous, by golly, and you got the time for it, you better say yes. All right? Dance. Okay? And the last one is live an adventure. Right? You don't let fear. If you go around, when you walk around, and I'm not saying that it's not difficult, okay? In that nursing home setting, you had 10 people in that activity center. 9 of them were afraid. They didn't know what was going on around them. They were afraid. My mom danced with someone she didn't know, all right? Don't let fear dictate what you do or your decisions and things along those lines. Get out of the chair. Don't let fear keep you down. And most of the time when people are afraid, they're afraid to make a mistake. They're afraid to fail. So at Arena Success, we've got this overriding saying. This is a huge deal. It's okay to try and fail. It is not okay to fail to try.